Just a foreword before we get into today's video. Despite the vibe this channel gives when discussing the actions of the Japanese in World War II, I must say that I have no hatred toward Japanese society and all its peoples. I respect the force for good they have become on the world stage and the amazing positive economic impact they have had on a global scale. With that said, I do not and will not ever set aside my belief that Japanese Empire were as bad, if not worse, than the Nazi Party in World War II. I'd make these videos to educate people on the mostly unknown and untold atrocities of the Imperial Japanese Army and their different campaigns in Imperial Japan. Honor was everything, and someone who had lost their honor and displeased their ancestors was treated like an animal and was mostly hated by society as all. This absolute obsession with honor translated tenfold onto the battlefield, and the Japanese came to be known as the most fearless fighting force of World War II. With this fearlessness, however, also came brutality. Anybody who was unfortunate enough to be cornered by the Japanese and forced to surrender could expect years of brutality. It is well known that civilians of China and Southeast Asia were raped and murdered by Japanese soldiers, and that civil disobedience in these Japanese-controlled territories was punishable by torture and death. The Japanese had a burning hatred for enemies who had decided to surrender instead of die fighting. As many of you know, this led to hard labor, beatings, and torture to such an extreme level that the prisoners of liberated Japanese prison camps were described as looking like those liberated at Auschwitz. In addition to this, the Japanese also implemented a kill-all order that stated as soon as the first American soldier set foot on the Japanese homeland, all Japanese soldiers would be ordered to behead, burn, or shoot the 100,000 or so remaining Allied troops still in the prison camps. One infamous example of Japanese inhumanity toward the prisoners in World War II was the Sandakan Death March. Essentially, 3,000 British troops were forced to march through the steamy jungles of Borneo, only to be killed when they reached their destination. Only 7 men escaped, and only 1 man survived at all. When an influx of new prisoners eventually came in to build an airstrip in 1942, the same group of guards would execute groups of prisoners, so there was more food for the Japanese guards. According to one war crime testimony, a Japanese sergeant told one group of prisoners, "There is no enough food, so I'm killing the lot of you today. Is there anything you want to say?" But in my opinion, by far, the worst thing the Japanese did were the vivisections they performed on live subjects. As we all know, Unit 731 was the Japanese unit tasked with doing these horrible experiments overseas. However, what many don't know is that if you are unfortunate enough to be an American airman shot down over Japanese airspace, Japanese universities were happy to use you as life example for their students.